From the West now, let's go to Southern Africa, where the independent report commissioned by the South African government to investigate the December 2022 visit of a Russian supply ship to the country's Simonstown naval base has been delivered to the country's president, Cyril Ramaphosa. Pressure has been placed on the government by the opposition party and the United States to investigate the allegations the vessel covertly, during the middle of the night, loaded armament or possible munitions for Russia in violation of the international sanctions imposed after the invasion of Ukraine. Presidential spokesperson Vincent Magwenya confirmed the three-member panel that was headed by a retired judge has completed its investigations and presented its reports to Ramaphosa, who has said he will review it and decide whether to make the report public. The panel was originally given a 6-week deadline to uncover the facts about the Russian vessel's presence in the country's waters. Now, Member of Parliament for Democratic Alliance and Shadow Minister for Defence, Cobus Marias, joins me on the news for more on this. Thank you, Cobus, for joining me.
Viewers in Nigeria,
all right,
all over the world.
Yes, it's a pleasure to have you join us, Cobus. Now, as it stands, it looks like no one has or knows the content of that report, and it's unlikely that the president is going to make that report public because he says he's yet to decide whether or not he's going to make it public. What is your take on that?
Well, it's very ironic, especially if one reads the newspaper over the weekend, where apparently there was a leak that nothing was found that was loaded, that was irregular, and that it was only food. I mean, we all know that that is absolutely rubbish, and we don't believe a word of that if that is what is in the report, because we know that stuff was loaded in crates. The equivalent of 3 to 4 containers was loaded by the cranes, even 3 o'clock on the Friday morning before it departed Simonstown. The Americans has confirmed that. We even know about speculations what type of components of ammunition that was loaded. So any denial of that will just discredit the whole process further. One must remember that this was not a judicial commission of inquiry. It was just a panel that was appointed by the president, and it is chaired by a retired judge. So that doesn't make it or give it the status of a judicial commission of inquiry. But the question is also, if nothing was done wrong, so why the secrecy? And if nothing was found to be done illegally or irregularly, why not publicize the whole report? Because then they've got nothing to fear. In fact, they can vindicate themselves. They can prove that nothing was done wrong. And then we, who maybe have other facts, can then challenge the report and see whether whoever gave witness and testimony to the committee or the panel, whether they was honest and truthful about the reality. So yes, it's in the public's interest. It's in international interest to make the full report, and we will not stop until we get to that point.
I think, Cobus, you just hit the nail on the head, because I was definitely going to ask you about transparency, talking about the fact that it is claimed or alleged that South Africans, there was no fault in the part of South Africa. I mean, we're talking about an international sanction after the Ukraine invasion. So if there was nothing done wrong, why the secrecy? But then again, looking at that point, would you say that it would affect the trust that people have in the system? Because, of course, this is like a hindrance of transparency. People need to know what happened, when that visit happened. So why the secrecy? And if that happens, then does that affect the trust in the system?
Oh, absolutely. And one must remember that ammunition and weapons imports and exports never take place via Simonstown Naval Base. It always happens via the official ports, customs ports of entry and exit. So if nothing was done wrong in this case and all the permits was in place and nothing illegally or irregularly was loaded, then why didn't it even intend or try to go to Table Bay Port in Cape Town or Port Elizabeth or Durban or East London? There was never an intention to even do that. And that in itself, because remember, it was only with high-level authority and approval that the Lady R, who was on anchor south of South Africa, was escorted into the naval base by 2 naval vessels. So all of that are highly, highly irregular, and that tells us that they knew whatever was on the vessel to be offloaded or whatever was to be loaded onto the vessel would most probably not make the criteria and the minimum standards of the official government agencies at the official customs ports of entry. So all of that indicates that this is a cover-up and a very poor effort of a cover-up. Because, I mean, remember, the whole world is looking to us, and if we deny something that is actually fact, then they're just doing more damage. Remember, the information that we have got, and I've said right from the beginning, if there's one country that should have all the information, it is the Americans. Now, they have followed the Lady R specifics for reasons that it's under sanction and that it's a doubtful vessel. So they have obviously, monitored the vessel, and it obviously while it was in Simonstown Naval Base as well, because of the irregularity of that. So, I don't doubt what the Americans have said, because that correlates 100% with my information. And anything else, even a total denial, I mean, that's just ludicrous, and we will reject it with the content that it deserves.
All right, Kobu, speaking on behalf of the Democratic Alliance now that the report is out and might not be put out there for the public to see, as the DA, are there any intentions of going to the court to force this out?
Well, we will obviously reserve all our rights. There are various avenues that we can follow, of which the last will be to go to a court and demand that the report be made public. And then, depending on that information, even take that further. But most importantly, we will use the avenues that is available via the Public Access to Information Act to apply for that information. And even, we can appeal a rejection from their side. We will obviously, within Parliament, we will pose the questions. And even at a stage, we might say, okay, this is the proof that we've got. So right. What do you say about that?
Okay.
And then obviously, lastly, we will go to court.
All right, Member of Parliament for Democratic Alliance and Shadow Minister for Defence, Cobus Marais, thank you so much for joining us on the news.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.